In every century of the Church, there are mysteries so deep that even the saints trembled, not because the truth was dangerous, but because humanity might misunderstand it. Today, you are about to enter one of those mysteries. A truth woven into the Rosary, hidden not by secrecy, but by the fragile fear that believers would mistake its beauty for superstition, or its depth for mere repetition. Welcome to Faith Flame TV. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where you are watching from, and whether you pray the Rosary daily, seldom, or not at all. Because after today, you will never look at the Rosary the same way again. Long before the Rosary was made of beads, it was made of memories of Jesus' life whispered in the hearts of his closest followers. The early Christians prayed under the shadow of persecution, hiding in caves lit by oil lamps, whispering the life of Christ bead by unseen bead. And among them, certain holy men and women feared something. They feared that this sacred chain of meditation, this living journey into Christ's mysteries, could one day be reduced to empty words if people forgot its true fire. To them, the Rosary was not a devotion. It was an encounter. As centuries passed, the Rosary spread like holy wildfire. Monks prayed 150 psalms. The faithful prayed 150 Hail Marys. And yet a quiet warning remained in the writings of the saints. This prayer will lose its meaning if the mind stops entering the mysteries. Why? Because the Rosary was more than counting beads. It was walking with Jesus. Every decade was meant to transport the soul into an actual moment of salvation history, joyful moments, sorrowful sufferings, triumphant glories. This immersion was the mystery they feared people would misunderstand, that the Rosary was not recitation but transformation. For Saint Dominic, for Saint Louis Delaware Montfort, for the mystics who came after them, the Rosary was a window into divine memory. When your fingers touched the beads, they believed heaven leaned closer. The saints feared that if we treated the Rosary as a task instead of a journey, we would lose its supernatural purpose. In their writings, they spoke of moments when praying the Rosary caused ordinary people to suddenly understand Scripture that they had read for years without depth. The Rosary was a key. And the key could be lost, not by being hidden, but by being misunderstood. Surprisingly, what the saints feared most was not the repetition, not the Marian devotion, not even spiritual laziness. It was something deeper. They feared we would misunderstand the mysteries themselves. Each mystery is not just a memory, it's a portal. A living, breathing doorway into the saving actions of God. When you meditate on the Annunciation, heaven revisits that moment in your soul. When you meditate on the Crucifixion, grace from Calvary flows through your prayer. This was the fear. That believers would pray the mysteries without ever stepping into them. That we would touch the beads but not touch the moment. That we would say the prayers but not see Christ. According to tradition, the Rosary was heaven's answer to spiritual blindness. The saints said humanity forgets easily. We forget who God is. We forget what He has done. We forget how He loves. So heaven gave the Rosary as a chain to pull humanity back toward divine memory. Every bead was meant to be a step toward Christ. Every decade, a chapter in His story. Every mystery, a mirror showing us who we are called to become. The saints trembled at the thought that people would turn this weapon into a routine. Because to them, the Rosary was nothing less than a pocket-sized gospel. The saints wrote that praying the Rosary without entering the mysteries is like walking through a palace with your eyes closed. You hold something priceless, but you never see its beauty. And worse, you never receive its power. To pray the Rosary incorrectly is not a sin. But to pray it blindly is a tragedy. Because the Rosary was designed to blindfold the enemy, not the believer. When you meditate deeply, the mysteries reshape your mind. They reorder your fears. They soften your heart. They open your eyes. The saints feared we would settle for words, and miss the transformation. Here is the Rosary mystery the saints feared would be misunderstood. The Rosary is not about Mary. It is about Jesus, seen through the eyes of the one who knew Him best. This was the secret. The tenderness of the joyful mysteries. The darkness of the sorrowful mysteries. The triumph of the glorious mysteries. They are all stories of Christ, held in the heart of His mother, offered to us so we can walk inside them. Mary's role is not to distract from Christ, but to guide us to Him. The saints feared that people, both inside and outside the church, would mistake Marian devotion for Marian worship and therefore reject the Rosary's power. Their fear came true. But today, we reclaim the truth. Those who understood the Rosary this way, Padre Pio, Saint John Paul II, Saint Teresa of Calcutta, prayed it not as repetition but as immersion. And miracles followed. Addictions broke. Families healed. Grief lifted. Fear dissolved. Because every mystery is a doorway. Every bead is an invitation. Every prayer is a step into the life of Christ. The saints said the Rosary is powerful because when you meditate on a mystery, heaven pours the grace of that moment into your present life. The Annunciation brings fresh hope. The Nativity brings new beginnings. The agony brings strength in suffering. The resurrection brings victory after defeat. This is why it works. This is why the saints treasured it. This is why they feared it would be misunderstood. If you want to rediscover the Rosary's true power, the saints left 3 simple steps. 1. See the mystery. Let your imagination enter the scene. What does Mary see? What does Jesus feel? What is God showing you? 2. Feel the grace of the moment. Let each decade shape you. Let its truth speak to your life. 3. Pray slowly. Do not rush. Let the rhythm guide your heart. Let the beads lead your mind into silence. This is how the Rosary becomes a living encounter, not a routine. The saints never feared that people would stop praying the Rosary. They feared that people would pray it without transformation. Because a Rosary that does not change you is only half alive. Today, heaven invites you to rediscover this ancient treasure the way the early saints lived it. As a journey into the life of Christ, guided by the heart of Mary, powered by the grace of God. Before you go, answer these in the comments to build our Rosary family. How often do you pray the Rosary? Which mystery touches you the most, and why? What grace are you asking God for through this devotion? If today opened your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Faith Flame TV. Because in our next episode, we will uncover another Rosary truth the early Christians barely whispered aloud. And trust me, you do not want to miss it.